This is Econ Solutions, looking at monopoly and perfect competition in the Unit 3 topic content. So the first thing I want to look at is what profit is and what the profit maximizing point is for firms. So profit is essentially total revenue, so the amount you gain from the sales minus the total costs, so how much it costs you to produce that good and everything that goes along with producing that good. So this is called the equilibrium condition, and that's how much profit you gain as a business. However, the profit maximizing point for firms, this is where firms can gain the most profit, which remember is their key objective, is where MR equals MC. So that's marginal revenue, which is the amount of revenue you gain from selling one more good, equals marginal cost, which is the amount the good costs from selling one more. And this is your profit maximizing point for any market structure. Now the reason for this is if you see marginal revenue was less than marginal cost, what that means is the amount of revenue you gained from your last good sold was actually less than it cost you to make. So you're actually going to be making a loss. So you have to reduce output to increase profits at this point. And if you had a situation where MR was greater than MC, what that means is the amount of revenue you gained from your last product sold would actually be greater than it cost you to make. So you wouldn't have exhausted the profit there. So the only way to gain profit maximization is for MR to equal MC. As when MR is greater than MC, you actually have to increase output in order to increase profits. So the only place that profit is maximized is where MR equals MC. So now I'm going to move on to talk about perfect competition and then where the profit maximizing point is in perfect competition. So perfect competition, firstly, you have to know it has to satisfy certain conditions. So in perfect competition, there are a large number of buyers and sellers. There's perfect information. They sell as much as you can at that market price. So where demand equals supply, you can clear your production line. You're a price taker, as opposed to a monopoly that's a price maker. So you have to take the market price. It's a homogeneous product, which means it's the same. So there's no differentiation in the product. And there's no barriers to entry or exit, but only in the long run. So the next thing I want to talk about is perfect competition in the short run equilibrium. So if I just label these curves, you've got marginal cost and you've got your average total cost here. So as you can see, your marginal cost and your marginal revenue curves meet at this point A. Now that's our profit maximizing point. So I'll just put PM for profit maximization. As we know, when MC equals MR, that's our profit maximizing point. Now if you look at the revenue, total revenue you get, we know revenue is actually price times quantity. So essentially your revenue is going to be this box here, the area inside this box. However, we have to discount costs when we're talking about profit. So if we look where the average total cost is this curve here. If you see this curve along here, that's our average total costs. So if we take away our total revenue, our costs from our total revenue, you can see actually that these are the costs below, and what you'll be left with is profit. So that's where our supernormal profit is, because it's just revenue minus costs, which was our original definition of profit. Okay, so that's why in the short run firms can make supernormal profits. So if we now move into the long run, so if we cross that out, and we're now talking about the long run perfect competition equilibrium. So how does this differ from the short run? Well, if you're making supernormal profits, firms are going to look at that and they're going to want to enter the market. Now, as there are no barriers to entry or exit in perfect competition, firms are going to enter the market and actually shift out the supply curve, as you can see, from S to S1. So they'll shift it, loads of firms will pour into the market, shift the supply curve out, and actually reduce the price level from P1 to P2. However, just in the case of where they were making supernormal profits, they're now making subnormal profits because the costs are actually above what the revenue would be. Because our revenue, remember, our average revenue is where our price is. So at P2, we can see there's actually a gap here between the revenue and the costs. So it's costing you more to produce that good than you're gaining from it. So you're making subnormal profits. So firms will see this subnormal profits and then they'll start to leave the market. And remember, there's no barriers to entry or exit. So they'll leave the market. They're shifting it up to P3, and therefore you will end up at this point where MC equals MR, and it's on your average total cost curve, which means that you'll be making normal profits, which is what perfect competition will always happen in the long run because you have no barriers to entry or exit. So now I want to look at monopoly equilibrium, and this differs slightly in that they have high barriers to entry or exit, so therefore they can maintain supernormal profits in the long run as well. So there's not a short run and long run monopoly diagram. It's just this one. So there are some similarities to perfect competition. Again, our profit maximizing point will be where MC equals MR. So remember that in every market structure, that's our profit maximizing point, where the last good you sold, you made the revenue that it would cost you to make that good. That's your profit maximizing point. And then that at Q1, the highest price the monopoly can afford to sell is this price A. So you go up to your demand curve, and at price A, that's the highest price they can sell while succeeding the profit maximizing point of C. Okay, and that's the monopoly diagram in regards to the profit maximizing point, because they can make supernormal profits where their average total cost and their price differ by this chunk here, because your costs are at point B, and remember you're selling at point A, so your price times your quantity gives you your whole revenue of this, but you have to take away your costs from point B, which will leave you with this box here of supernormal profit. Remember, this differs from perfect competition in that it can be achieved in the long run as well.